Morning, everybody, and welcome to this new flow with me and Patrick today. We want to thank you for keeping watching our videos, and we saw some of you really liking some more than others. So please make sure to subscribe to support us, to simply keeping providing you with new videos. This one will be like super for us. So hit the little subscribe button and then flow with us. So we start in Sisa today, like sitting on top of our heels, placing the hands one on top of the other, nestling our palms with the thumbs connecting. Taking just a moment here to invite the practice. It's a place I like to sit prior to movement, just to prepare my mind for what is about to come ahead. Simply getting ready, dropping into the present moment. When you're ready, circle the arms up on inhalation. Exhaling, drawing the hands in front of your heart space, setting an intention. Simply bring that presence back in so that you can flow with ease. When you're ready, simply blink your eyes open, invite light in, and just roll onto your hands and knees. Take a moment here. Bring the knees under the hips, hands under your shoulder. We will start with simply some hip curls, like flossing the hip joint. So remember, every time we do these hip curls, it's like you want to do both direction. So when you're ready, simply send the foot towards the sky, right leg leads, bend the knee, and open the hip onto the side. Exhaling, draw it back down. We do this one for 5 on this direction. So they are control articulation. So you don't want to be kind of too hasty as you do so. Notice what happens if your shin or your calf wants to move close to your buttocks, to move you out of the rotation. Or if you can keep the 90-degree angle between your calf and your thigh. Last 2. Open. Send the legs up. Open to the side and bring it down. This is your last one. When you're ready, knee should be right knee should be close to the left. So we open first now. Send the foot up, and then we draw the knee back towards the ground, hovering on floor. We do this one again for 5. 1 is already down the road, so it would be 4. Keep the navel nice and lifted, so avoid to dump into the spine, avoid to arch the spine, also dumping into the shoulders. I know it's tempting, but this is the last one, so you can just give it that extra push. When you're ready, bring the right knee under the hip, and we move towards the other side. Option to keep the toes tucked if you feel for balance. Personally, I prefer untuck, but check what works for you. Patrick also, I think, prefers untuck. So when you're ready, send the left leg up, keeping the 90-degree angle, opening to the side like a fire hydrant, and you bring the left knee down. We do this one again out of 4. Keep the belly nice and lifted. Focus just on the hip joint. Imagine, if you could, you want to be able to see the articulation of your hip joint as you move in these rotations. Last one. When you're ready, you should have the left knee hovering side to the right, and we reverse. So you open the hip first, and then the legs reach up, and the knee move down. Do this one again for 5. That is what your spine is doing. Notice what your breath is doing. If you're holding your breath, keep breathing, flow in, out with no restriction. Last 2. And last 1. When you're ready, both knees down. Maybe take a child pose if you feel that you need to. Separate the knees, bring the big toes together. Notice what is there to be found. Maybe you simply need a moment of break after all these nice rotations. When you're ready, inhale, come back into your tabletop position. We will step our right foot outside of the right hand as we inhale, staying on fingertips, lifting the chest, okay, again, and we want to tuck the toes of the left foot. On the next inhalation will be the left foot stepping outside of the left hand, and we will end up in our Malasana squat. Placing the hands in front of the heart and separating the knees with your elbows. Simply feeling the tailbone almost aiming for the ground. This one, of course, is different for everybody. Everybody has a different body and a different experience. So if you notice that your heels are lifting or you're topping too much forward, bring a block under your hips. So just sit on your block or anything on a pillow. We stay here for a couple of breaths, maybe swinging from side to side, working on that hips. Avoid from dumping into the upper chest, keep the chest open. When you're ready, we open into twist. Start to lead with the right arm down. So the next inhalation, my right arms reach for the ground and my left arms reach for the sky. Try to keep like open chest. You will notice that your hips want to move away. Keep opening the hips. Last breath in. Exhale to center and simply change sides. So first rebalance and reset. When you're ready, left hand down. Inhale, right arm is reaching. See if you can keep the knees opening, that hip opening, avoiding the temptation to move away from the hip opener. I know it's hard. Exhale, hands in front of the heart again. When you're ready, with control, maybe even sending the arms forward, we want to bring the hips on ground. So you want to place your feet slightly in a comfortable position in front of you. We move to our shin box on 90-90. So from here, you want to start to roll onto your left side, bringing the knee almost like in direction of your left foot, creating a 90-degree angle. And we will do it onto the other side. The nice thing is to bring some hip compression. So bring the knees close, 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 close to the chest. And then you roll onto the other side. Maybe if you're doing this one with partner, you can give a high five. And then we move to the other side. Squeeze, 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 squeeze in. Left side, find the shin box. And then we do it onto the other side. Again, high-fiving if you want. Okay, so now we move for the last shin box onto the left side. Here we want to adjust ourselves for a moment, making sure that it's 90 degrees on both sides. Framing the front shin, inhaling, open the chest and maybe folding like if it was a modified pigeon. Option to bring the hands on ground and relax the forehead down. When you're the inhale, come up, push the floor away. We will do exactly the same thing onto the right side. So keep the hip compression, don't be too hasty as you move. And we want just to create again the 90 degree shin box or like 90-90. And we want to fold. So if you have a partner, be careful that you don't head bump your partner. Inhaling here. Exhaling, folded. You might notice that this side feels very different than the other one. I'm talking for myself. My right side is a little bit more stiff. And you can stay a little bit higher. Patrick, for example, is staying on a little bit higher on his elbows. You don't have to bring the head all the way down if it implies that your spine starts to round. So keep it like functional what you're doing. Don't look for aiming for shapes, but more sensations. When you're ready, inhale, push the floor away. So we bring ourselves again with our knees into the chest, like this very compressed Malasana. Now from here, I can invite you either to lift the buttocks from the ground, or if you can, like with the feet together, lifting without your hands, or if you prefer, you can bring the hands behind the hips and bring yourself almost into a very squeeze and a small squat. If you have the flexibility, just bring yourself up. So from here we want to move on toes, so balancing on our toes, pulling the Yes, pulling the elbows back. Stay a moment here in toe balancing, reinviting that focus after all that nice and I will say playful time on our hips. And as we stay on toes, we transition our forward fold by simply bringing the hands down and sending the hips up with control. Take a moment here, walk at the front of the mat, separate the feet a little bit more, and I want you to think like to swing from side to side. Simply moving, invite motion. When you're ready, inhale, come all the way up, one vertebra at a time. Imagine that you're a ragdoll, or like if you were a flower, coming all the way up. As you need, flowers need some time to grow tall. They will not like grow tall overnight, at least not most of them. So we'll work a little bit on hamstring stretch. Prior we start to flow a little bit more on our hips, of course. So I want you to step your right foot back, roughly a meter. And if you are in imperial system, I will say left free, like more or less, I don't know how much it is in US, but you would say like something pretty much like a good fair step, not to overstretch. You want to start to bend your right leg, so the one that stepped back, and start to stretch your left one. So what will happen is that the toes will move towards the knees, and you want to keep a 90-degree angle. Hands it can be in front of the heart or towards the back, and you want to press that heel down, feeling almost to recollect your legs, almost if you want to bring it back into the hip socket, and feel like a strong stretch into the left side. Do we feel it? I think so. Yes. When you're ready, inhale, come back forward, and just change sides. Again, take that average step, the one that you are not running yet, but almost. And then you want to bend the left knee, flexing the right foot, and feeling the nice stretch into the right back chain, finding a 90-degree angle. I like to place my hands on top of my belly because I have the tendency to forget to lift my navel, or like to keep a slight engagement into my belly. And as I age, I want to make sure my lower back has no pain as much as I can. So I just like to make little reminders. Your hands are there also for this. When you're ready, inhale, come back forward and step. We will do just another time. Again, stepping the right foot, right? Bending the knee and finding a nice toe to knee flexion. Again, 90 degrees. Last breath. And when you're ready, come back forward and change. Bending, flexing the right foot. Last breath in. And coming back forward and change. When you're ready, take a moment here to separate your feet, relax your shoulders, lift the chest, and notice the sensation into the legs already. On the next inhalation, we send the arms up. And as we exhale, we send the hands towards the ground, finding a gentle fold. Inhaling, we lift the chest, and we step back in our plank pose. So remember, you can always bring the knees on ground if you want. From here, Ashtanga Namaskar, my favorite one, so knee, chest, and chin on ground, or knee, chest, and forehead. Doesn't have to be the chin necessarily. And from here, we want to open in our cobra. So either you slide forward or you wave forward. Pelvis is down, elbows are bent, knees are lifting. Exhale, push back, child pose. Inhale, downward facing. Taking a moment here into your downward facing dog. On the next inhalation, send the right leg up. Bend the knee, find a scorpion dog. So invite the opening into the hip already. Taking circle if it suits you. Remember the cars you do at the beginning. So even if the circle, you don't want to have it like something rough and not particularly focused. You want that the circle is really something that you are striking for. When you're ready, inhale, gaze forward. We take a big step of our right foot, maybe even keeping the hip open towards the outside of the right hand. Bring the left knee on ground. Take a moment here to swing between back and forward. And then when you're ready, we move in our lizard. So my invitation for your lizard will be like, it's the first one, maybe enter there with kindness. So don't be too rough. Toes can be tucked or untucked. And you can walk the hands away from you if you want, or stay with the hands under the shoulder like Patrick is doing, keeping the weight on fingertips, simply like focusing on opening the hip. If the hip is already quite available for you, maybe you want to drop the elbows down. Remember, drop first the one close to the knee because it's the one that is harder, so it gives you a good meter. It's a little bit of humbling position. And then maybe the other one, like it's to moving into a place of awareness without, you know, running from one side to the other. When you're ready, inhale, hands under the shoulder again, wherever you are. I want to, heel to toe, bring the right foot between the hands. Now from here, I want to ask you to tuck the back toes. And we're moving our pyramid, so this one will request a little bit of push and lift from hips and core. So when you open the chest, inhale. Exhale, lift the back knee, maybe even step it close, the left foot closer, and find your pyramid. Couple of breaths here, squaring the hips. Imagine that the right hip is moving back as the left one is moving forward. Keep maybe the flexion on the right foot if you wish. When you're ready from here, start to lift the chest. We walk the hands inside the right foot, moving towards the back of our mat. You should be framing the left foot by now, placing the both hands on ground, sending the left leg towards the sky. When you're ready, exhale, left knee towards the left wrist, and we want to find a pigeon. So we did a half pigeon before with our 90-90, same on this side, opening the hip and finding a little bit this one of internal rotation after external, so that we play with both. If you want, you can keep the back toe stuck, keep your pigeon a little bit active, at least at the beginning, opening the chest, focusing on right hip flexor moving down, left hip moving down. Always option to place a block under to elevate your hips, especially if you notice that you dump everything on one side. I will ask you to stay up here. Keep focusing on the hips so that you don't run away from the hip openers. And breathe. Of course, if you prefer to fold forward, do, but just be aware of the difference. Why you're doing something and what it brings to your practice. When you're ready from here, hands on ground, tuck the left toes. Send your left leg all the way up, finding a three-legged dog again. Bending the knee and opening the hip. Again, also here, scorpion dog, there is a good opportunity for circles, but be mindful. So keep really opening. It's not just, sometimes I see in class people just flaring the knee. So notice that this one, there is a purpose of what you do. When you're ready, keep the knee up, opening, nice. And then we want to open the hip as we transition, stepping the left foot outside of the left hand, going for that lizard again. So the knee can be down, preparing maybe by wiggling the hip from side to side. Again, your variation on lizard can be different than mine and Patrick's. So can be on blocks, can be on head, so can be on anything, but be mindful of what you do. Keep your practice interesting. So when you're ready, inhale, lift. Exhale, find your variation of lizard, the one that you can hold for 3 to 4 breaths. Keep breathing, stay with the breath. When you're ready, hands under the shoulder, push the floor away. Heel to toe, foot moves towards the middle. Preparing for lifting in our pyramid. So tucking the back toes. When you're ready, inhale, lift the right knee, push the hips back, maybe even stepping the right foot a little bit closer, and find your pyramid pose. Back heel can be lifted. You can even consider to step your right foot a little bit more towards the side, especially if your hips are bigger. I'm talking for women that maybe give birth recently, or for men that have a little bit more stiff hip. When you're ready, inhale, open the chest and start to walk the hands towards the middle and then gazing towards the front of your mat again. Framing the right foot, sending the right leg all the way back and up, three-legged up. Preparing for your pigeon onto the other side. Exhaling, right knee, right wrist. Again. Finding your favorite position. Pigeon, I find that is one of these poses that we rush to. Frequently it's at the end of class, so people just, yeah, pigeon, let me drop everything down. Instead, it's quite an important pose for opening so many parts of our body. So I will ask you also here to stay a little bit more active, untuck the toes, focusing on hip flexors, focusing on external rotators. Keep the chest open. Notice also there what is there to be found. Notice if you can stay in the middle. When you exhale, both hands down, we move back in our downward facing dog. Transition into a plank on inhalation. Exhaling knee, chest and chin. And then your back bend. Either is a cobra, always I go for that. And downward facing dog. We will do what we did a little bit faster, adding just some elements. But before doing this, gaze between the hands and just step your feet into your malasana. So right foot outside the right hand, left foot outside the left hand, keeping the hip opener. So from here, we will have just a little pause in between to explore two big hip openers, goddess pose and frog pose, as always for us to conclude practice. And hopefully after you can go through your day with way more space into your hips and maybe also way more joy. Hips are connected with our emotion, so can be sometimes releasing or can be sometimes just a beautiful invitation for more joy in life. So I will ask, still we are playful here, so we play hard, we work hard. I will ask you to take a little hop into your downward facing dog. So place the hands down, lift the hips, just land softly, so no sound, hopping a little bit into your downward facing dog. According to your abilities, your hop might be very different. When you're ready, send the right leg up, open the hip. This time we just stay with the open hip, pay attention to your shoulder, keep pushing through the hands equally. When you're ready, open, open, open as you step the right foot outside of the right hand. Bring the left knee down. Taking a variation on our lizard. Now, personally, I like to extend my arms onto the side, so bringing my right hand under the right thigh, left arm opposite side, and focus it just on bringing my crown of the head down. But this is one is me. For you, staying here will be probably sufficient. So you will see variation. Patrick stays with the head up, and I will move with my head down. Staying for a couple of breaths. Keep opening the right hip. Inhaling, pushing all the way up. Bringing heel to toe, the right foot in between, moving towards that pyramid, you know the gist by now. Inhaling, lifting the back knee, and opening the chest. As you exhale, you push the hips back, maybe stepping the left foot closer. This time we take a fold. You can always experiment, so your feet can be where they are. You can place the hands under the shoulder, maybe walk them forward or back, or even maybe catching the back leg. Wherever you are, take 3 breaths here. When you're ready, exhale, both hands on ground. We start to move the hands inside the feet. And then here we want to place the toes pointing out and the heels pointing in. Start to inhale and come up. Moving into your goddess. Hands can be under the shoulder, on top of your knees. Keep the tuck on the tailbone so that you feel a little bit of lower back integrity. Place the hands on top of the knee and just swing from side to side. When you're ready, stay where you are. Lift the chest, lift the belly, tailbone reach down. Hands can be inside the knee, finding like your version of goddess or horse stand, like a sumo squat. Keep the knees pointing in line with the toes. So the toes are like a little bit your little compass. Inhaling here, exhale, drop your right shoulder down. Inhale, come back up. Left shoulder drops down. Last two, both sides of course. Inhale, right. Inhale, back, exhale, left. Last round. Inhale, up, exhale, right. Inhale, up, exhale, left. When you're ready, inhale, send the arms up, star pose, release the hips. Exhaling, gazing back on mat, we prepare for pigeon, so spin on top of the right foot, both hands on ground. Left leg reach up, open the hip again. And then when you're ready, left knee towards the left wrist. Now for the one that are really loving to fold in their pigeon, please feel free. Otherwise, I will give a modification for anybody else that wish. You can bring yourself on elbows if you want. If you have a good, I would say solid pigeon, meaning that your thighs are touching the ground. If you want to add a little bit more spice and stretch even more your quads, you can bend your right knee, grabbing the right foot with the right hand, maybe even bringing the heel outside of your buttocks. Wherever you are, stay with the breath. Take the last two breaths. Exhale, release. Both hands on ground. Sending the left leg towards the sky. Preparing again. Moving on to the other side. Inhaling here, bend the knee, open. Scorpion dog. Exhale, as you transition forward, step the left foot outside of the left hand. Again, taking your variation, right knee on the ground. We are working on a space more than on strength today. So either you take the same variation, hands move onto the sides, and just experiment what is right and left, because for me, my right is way more stiffer than my left, and my left sometimes more open for some stuff, but not for everything. So when you're ready, breathe in. Last two breaths. Inhaling, prop yourself up, hands under the shoulder. Now from here, we want heel to toe, the left foot in. Preparing for that pyramid, fingertips on mat. Inhaling, lifting the back knee, stepping the right foot like almost automatically closer. Inhaling, lifting the chest, exhale, fold. If you went before for any variation in position of hands, arms reach forward or back, or maybe you catch the back leg, please be free to do the same here. If you stay like Patrick on fingertips, focus really on your hips. Also, if you stay like me, it's not that you forget about it, but just there, focus on stretching your spine and make it long. And you're ready, exhale, release the hands. Moving the hands inside the left foot. So here we approach our frog pose. So frog pose for most of us is not like our favorite pose. I will include myself in the bunch. But it's very good for our hips to keep like mobile and flexibility. So take a little hop back, so that if you have a mat, you can land the inside of your knees on top of the mat. Now, if you have sensitive knees, please prop yourself with some blankets under, because especially the inside, at the beginning, if we focus just on opening, a lot of us will put a lot of pressure here instead to focus on opening your hips. So my recommendation would be focus on your hips instead on the distance of your knees, being the distance of your knees a consequence of your hip opener, not other way around. So when you're ready, hands on ground, maybe take a little hop, bring the knees onto the floor. You want to have a 90-degree angle with the ankles and with the knees, and then start to feel again the opening in the hips. So the knees are sliding as a consequence of your hips opening. So we can stay on elbows here. So according where you are, it can be very different sensations. Some of us, I have some students who can bring the hips all the way down. I'm always so amazed. And this one tells a lot about our story, where we come from, what we were used to do, what our life looks like. I used to spend long hours sitting, so my hips, I'm already pretty happy where I am now, honestly. I saw huge improvement by including this type of practice into my daily activities. So try to avoid to push the hips too much forward, because then you will run away from the stretch, right? We spoke about it. But just stay with the stretch. A last couple of 2 breaths here. When you're ready, inhale. Start to lift the chest and start to bring the big toes together like if it was a super wide child pose. Send the hips back and take that super wild child pose. And when you walk the hands towards the shoulders and under them, lift the chest. And we want to take a same hop to come back forward. So from here, it might be that we need to bring the knees a little bit closer, placing the hands down and just hopping back where we came from. Yeah, like to play a little bit around. We still like to play. Yes, when you're ready, gaze forward, framing the right foot. I want to send the right leg all the way back and up. Finding your 3-legged dog and inviting that pigeon again. So the right knee towards the right wrist, finding the shape and finding like space into the left hip flexor this time. Finding your variation. If you stayed it up on elbows with me before adding a quad stretch, we can do the same now. But before, be mindful. So I never rush into poses. I found that like every pose deserves the time. It's almost like if you are looking for something you care about, you will never rush into it. So if you were with me, bend the left knee, catch the left foot, and simply find that extra juicy quad stretch. Keep breathing there because you need that breath. And you might find that if you do this, you might need to adjust a couple of times also. Last breath in. And last breath out as we release. Taking a moment, hand on the shoulder. Sending the right leg all the way back and up as we inhale from the chest. Sending the right leg all the way back and up. Shake the right foot and bring both feet together onto the ground. Last Surya, so transition into your plank. Exhale, knee, chest and chin. Inhale, wave. Find that beautiful Bhujangasana. Exhale, find the child pose. Take a moment in child. Take a moment to notice the sensation, maybe a renewed like flow of blood around the hips, new and renewed. When you're ready, walk the hands towards the knees. Take a moment to bring yourself inside again where you started. Prop yourself up, hands nestling, thumbs connecting. Just noticing. If nothing special around the hips, maybe just notice the energy moving around you. When you're ready, open the eyes. Just drop the hips onto the ground, either to the right or to the left. I want to send the legs forward, maybe moving towards the middle of our mat, preparing for our bridge pose, inviting there a little bit of gentle back bend. Bringing the back on ground, gently. Relax. Bring the feet close to the hips, fingertips are touching. Lower back on ground indeed. When you're ready, start to tuck the tailbone under and place the hands aside of your hips. As soon as you inhale, lift the hips forward from the sky and send the arms overhead. Exhale, move the arms where they came from, hips towards the ground. Try to do one vertebra at a time. We do this one for 5, so join me in. Inhale. Exhale for 2. Last 3. Inhale. Exhale, keep that internal part of your leg quite active. Last 2. Inhale. Imagine that you're holding something between your thighs. Exhale, move down. Last 1. Inhale and lift. Maybe hold here. Keep lift the hips, squeezing the buttocks, lifting the navel, legs nice and active into the midline. Last 2 breaths. Keep lifting, lifting, resting on your shoulders, protecting the neck, chin towards the chest. And when you're ready with control, start to bring upper, middle, lower back down as your arms gently circle back towards the floor. Take a moment here to knock your knees in, separate your feet quite wide, hands on top of the belly, and observe. When you're ready, knees towards the chest on inhalation. We will rock back and forward, bringing ourselves to a seated position. 3 rounds, unless you really enjoy it. Third one, we come to seated. Taking a moment into your seated position to find any seated position that so far you never took. So for me, since we worked today a lot with the hips, will be like a butterfly, bringing the feet together. Maybe Patrick will go for something else, like harvesting a little bit of the energy that you brought into your practice this morning, holding the feet, maybe even opening them if they were a book. Staying up tall with your eyes closed. Just observe your butterfly from a point of beauty and not judgment, meaning that you're not looking how high it is, how much you are away from ground. Just notice if your spine is rounding, because in that case you might need a block under the hips. But if your spine is up and tall and it's just a matter of distance, allow the distance to be just a beautiful journey you're up for. So it doesn't matter that much how long it is, because you're already signed up for that journey. You already did. When you're ready, exhale, bring the sole of the feet touching again, if you were opening your feet like a book. And we cross the legs in front now. Taking a moment to bring the hands in front of the heart, expressing gratitude for our practice, our body, the ability to move, and the ability to stay present. Also, when things get a little bit tough, I want to thank you for being with us, practicing with us in this hip focus flow. I wish you a lovely day. Don't forget to subscribe and see you soon in class. Thank you.